Cruising, for all the fun that it is, it also has some weird aspects. In fact, even if you love cruises like I do, there are some things that you have to admit are pretty weird when you think about it. Some are good, some are bad, some are just plain out there. Let's get to them. I'm gonna start with something that I honestly still don't quite understand despite sailing on dozens of ships, and that is how these ships even float at all. I suppose if you've taken physics in high school, it will make some sense. To a layman like me, I still do not understand how a ship made of steel, weighing hundreds of thousands of tons, stays above the water. And it's not like these ships are big and hollow like a container ship is. They are filled with cabins, restaurants, swimming pools, roller coasters, you name it. And despite all of that, they have no problem floating. Perhaps what's even weirder is that the ships don't just float, but they can move up to 25 miles per hour, and they are also amazingly stable, despite having in some cases 20 decks that rise hundreds of feet above the water surface. Despite that, often you can't even feel the water at all when you sail. Another way that cruises are weirder than you think, the ship is open to passengers from bow to stern, who have a ton of space to explore, hang out, and just enjoy themselves. But there is a secret world that you will never see on a cruise ship. This includes the spots like the crew quarters, where literally thousands of crew members live when they are not working their tails off on the higher decks. Then there are all of the mechanical parts of the ship, like the engine room, the processing areas for waste, monitoring the status of all the areas around the cruise ship, and even the bridge of the ship where the captain sits. And around restaurants, you'll find all the back of house areas where the food is stored, prepped, and plated. And of course, all of those dishes are cleaned and sanitized. It can feel like you have the run of ship when you are cruising. And it is true that you do get to enjoy most of the vessel, but there are definitely places that you will never see. Okay, maybe this is weird just to me, but I'm betting some other people watching have thought about this too. The main dining room, it's where most people eat their evening meal when on the cruise ship. The menu, it changes every night, and literally thousands of people flow through here over the course of a single dinner. So it's pretty crazy having that many people eating in a single night. But what's really weird to me isn't the number of people served, but the fact that the restaurant serves seemingly everything all at once. Where else do you see grilled sea bass, veggie spring rolls, and chicken and waffles all on the same menu? And then the next night, the menu completely changes. It's always made me wonder if you could really be an expert in cooking so many different types of dishes, and to be honest, I find the dining room meals to be hit and miss. Some items are great, others, not so much. Don't think that everything weird is something to essentially be wary of. One thing that I can't quite wrap my head around is a real positive, and that's the value of cruising. Don't take that the wrong way. I'm not saying a cruise is cheap, although some of them can be. It's easy to spend thousands on your vacation though. But imagine that I told you that you're taking a 1-week vacation to Grand Turk, the Dominican Republic, and San Juan. Your transportation, it's included. So is your room, and then the food and the entertainment, which can even consist of Broadway caliber shows. And that can come out to $1,000 or maybe $2,000 per person. Typically, you'd pay that much just for the hotel at a big resort on the beach. On a cruise, however, you get it all. That you can get all of that for so cheap is pretty wild, but you won't find me complaining. If you've never sailed a cruise before, you might think what I did before I ever sailed. I figured that ships would come in one day, let everyone off, get all the rooms ready, restock, and then welcome the next group of passengers the next day. No, that is not what happens at all. Instead, a ship comes in early one morning, 4,000 to 6,000 passengers disembark while the crew goes on a mad dash to clean all the cabins, restock all the needed supplies, refuel, and do anything else needed to get the ship ready. Within just a few hours, new passengers start flooding in, and the ship is turned around and back sailing on another cruise in only about 10 hours from the end of the last one. So, in less than half a day, a cruise ship will see a total of up to 15,000 passengers swapping places. And that bed you're sleeping in, the dining room chair that you're sitting, or the bar stool that you're keeping warm, someone else was enjoying all of those amenities just hours before. With this one, I know it's going to offend some people because I see lots of people doing this all the time without a care. Frankly, I don't understand it and think it's among the weirdest things on a cruise. I'm talking about the hot tubs. To me, there's just something I cannot get over about sitting in a whirlpool with a dozen total strangers. That many people, all essentially sharing the same bathwater? No thank you. Now I will admit that I've gone down and hopped in early in the morning when no one else is around, and I'd be fine sharing with a couple of people. But I can tell you that if you ever see me on a cruise that you're on as well, you will never find me in the crowded hot tub. It's just a little too weird for my taste. What's weird about cruising doesn't always stay on the ship. Sometimes it extends to shore. In this case, one thing that I have to point out that always strikes me as odd are those Caribbean port areas. If you sail the Caribbean to places like Cozumel or Costa Maya, you'll encounter exactly what I'm talking about. Here, the grand entrance to an exotic port in a foreign country is a trip through a duty-free store. Then you'll find the enclosed port area with all the party bars, the souvenir shops, and the very touristy photo ops, including people dressed up to take photos with. It's obvious that people do like these spots. They're always plenty busy, and it's a convenient spot to have some fun and pick up a couple of souvenirs without having to venture too far from the ship. But when you think about a foreign port, I do think it's weird that places with so much history, so much culture, and some of the most beautiful parts of the planet lead off with places to get cheap drinks and duty-free cigarettes. Okay, for this one, I want you to think of any other hotel in the world where guests are put in a room that measures less than 200 square feet, sometimes without any windows, and people gladly pay for that experience. That's exactly what happens on a cruise, often with occupancy at greater than 100% across the ship. Anyone that's sailed before knows there is much more to the trip than just your cruise cabin, but when you think about paying for a room like that at any other resort, it is definitely weird. If you booked a room at a resort on land and walked into a spot that had a shower so small that you couldn't even really bend over to wash your feet, you'd want a refund. Of course, a cruise ship, the amount of space is limited, and if there were larger cabins, that would mean fewer passengers and those higher prices. Another weird quirk of cruising that is actually a positive, all the things that you can do on the ship. I mentioned the dining room earlier, where it is strange that you can have such a wide variety of different dishes in one place. Well, a cruise ship is the same when it comes to the activities on board. You want to hang out by the pool? Of course that's an option, as is having a drink while you do it. But so is riding a water slide, singing karaoke, and playing around a putt-putt. You can ride a roller coaster, relax in a hot tub if you're into that, or even take a zipline across the ship. Inside, you can go shopping, play in the casino, listen to live music, or order a fancy cocktail. You can watch the evening shows, you can get a massage, you can go dancing, and even try your luck with an escape room on some cruise ships. I'd argue that there is nowhere that you can do as wide a variety of things as you can on a cruise ship. Right now, whenever you are watching this, if it's 2 in the afternoon or 2 in the morning, cruises are going on. People are eating, gambling, sunbathing. They're drinking or watching a show or just relaxing on their balcony. Every day, cruises are beginning. Every day, cruises are ending. I don't know why, but it's weird to think that cruises go on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Right now, someone is having a vacation that they will never forget. That's not just the cruise industry either. Individual cruise ships, they work around the clock all year long. Unless they are headed to dry dock, a ship is always in service with paying passengers. And that way, it's a little bit like Las Vegas. No matter the time of day or the year, someone is playing blackjack in Vegas. No matter the time of day or the time of year, even if it is a holiday like Christmas, there are tons of people taking their cruise. Now, one last thing before I go, I've pointed out a number of things that I think are fairly weird in cruising. But I want to know what you think is weird about taking a cruise. Put it in the comments below, and if you see a comment that you agree with, give it an upvote. I also hope that you'll consider subscribing if you like this video, and be sure to check out the rest of the channel and Cruzely.com. Until next time, happy sailing.